doesn't really make sense anymore, but oh well. I've had this channel for years, and it's always been bookish in some form, either me writing the stuff or the stuff that I've written, and occasional promotions for other books or readathons and stuff, but I really haven't used it, and it seems like kind of a wasted thing. So I've been thinking about BookTube for a long time, but I kept telling myself, you have a bookish podcast, okay? Why do you need BookTube too, right? And so I would push it off aside, and then I'm a patron of Chantal Reads All Day, and she had a post or a video, it's not a post, it was a video about why you should and why you shouldn't do BookTube. And I actually watched it kind of with the expectation that it's going to say, oh, yeah, I don't need BookTube. I'm not going to do this. But something she said, and I don't know if I ever knew or if I just don't remember, but something she said made me go, that's why I should do BookTube. That's why. And here's the reason. Because BookTube is a place for me to talk about the books that I'm reading, about the books that I loved, I hate, a rant, a gush. And I don't do that as much on my podcast as I had intended to, but also my podcast, Because Fiction, is only about Christian fiction, and that's not all I read. I mean, it's mostly what I read, but I read a lot of mysteries that aren't, and I read a few other things that aren't, and sometimes I want to talk about them. But also, Because Fiction wasn't intended to be an interview podcast. It wasn't supposed to be. But it happened. And that's okay, because the point of the podcast was to serve authors and readers. And if this is the best way to do that, then I want to do it. But I still want a place to talk about books. And yet I told myself, you don't have time. I mean, I really don't have time. But on the other hand, I noticed that once I started talking about the books I was reading and I got to gush about them and something happened. I wrote better and faster. And I realized that all of that talking that I needed to do emptied my head of all the stuff I was thinking about and left space for writing. So I'm making this it's going to be like a 70% BookTube channel. There'll still be occasional writing things when the right time comes, or there'll still be occasional, I like to do my little night write things just because they're fun to do and whatever, but for the most part, we're just going to talk books, but not just Christian fiction books, and we're not doing interviews. I'm going to gush and rant and plot and plan and do all the fun things because it's what makes reading fun for me. And I want to do it. And besides, my brain needs to be empty so I can write, okay? I need space. I need mental space. So, the first thing that Chantal said to do, and I am being obedient and I'm doing what I'm told, was to do the BookTube Newbie Tag. So I've got the questions. I came prepared. See? All prepared. And number one was, why start with BookTube? Yeah, why start this BookTube channel? Well, I just answered that. So, hey, let's move along to two. And this one says, what can you bring to BookTube that's unique? I'm going to say my ability to turn anything into a Roger Miller sound sequence. Let's go with that. No, aside from my name, I mean, it doesn't get much more unique than that. I think everybody brings something unique to anything because we are all unique in some way. So, I mean, I don't want to diss the question, but on the other hand, I'm like, we're all unique. I have a very strong bias toward Christian fiction. I have a very strong bias toward clean fiction, and I don't consider those to be the same thing. But I also have I love mysteries, and I love really beautifully written things that aren't heavy with description and overworked, but I just love when words are used in really great ways. Just most recent one I read was Storming by K.M. Weiland. She brought such great word usage that you're just reveling in the words as much as in the story. I love that. But I don't like Dickens generally. I like his stories. I don't like his writing. You know, there are other authors that people love that I don't. So I'm going to say I bring my own perspective, and it's unique, and it doesn't make it right or wrong or either. It's just mine. So that's all you're getting out of that. So what are you most excited about in starting your channel? Well, okay, technically it's not starting, but having a direction for my channel, that's partly what I'm most excited about, is the fact that I actually have direction, but also mostly books. Just a way to talk about all the books and all the kinds of books and the things that I loved in a book, and being able to do more than, it was like I said when I started my podcast, you know, typing up a blog post is really hard. You've got to get the words just right. You've got to say it as succinctly as possible without making it choppy. And there's a lot of nuances to writing a good blog post that makes just chatting about the book that you just want to gush about work. And I don't want to do that. So yeah, that's why I think I kind of already said that in the why am I starting the channel. I think they're kind of really related. So I'm just gonna stop there, right? Why do you love reading? Oh, who doesn't? Okay, and there are people who don't love reading. I actually, this is very hard to say, but I have children who don't love reading. Okay, I have 9 kids. So, you know, it was bound that at least 1 or 2 wouldn't. But most of my kids love reading too, and, you know, whatever. But I just love story. I really do. I just love getting lost and immersed in a world. Okay, there's that. But if I could only say one thing, it would be that story is how I learn. And so by reading, I understand people, ideas, even things I disagree with, it doesn't matter. I understand them in a way that I wouldn't if I just was introduced to something and then here, go run with it and make it make sense to you. Seeing someone else live with that idea in a story helps me put it into context and it helps me make it understand it. It's kind of like someone giving you a biography of someone in the Bible and saying, you know, this person was, you know, taken off the streets, shoved into a king's harem, and then forced to be his queen. That doesn't help me as a person. But if I read the story of Esther and I see her bravery and her strength and her courage, even when she's so scared and she's been put in this horrible position, and what's going to happen to her people if she doesn't rise above it, and I see her play it out and how she is very careful in her choices and everything, it helps me know how to live those things myself. So that would be why. That would be why. Number 5, it says, what book or series got you into reading? Here's the thing. My mom taught me to read when I was really little. I don't think I was quite 4, but I might have just been barely 4. It was one of the two. And I've been reading ever since. I actually got in trouble in kindergarten for saying I knew how to read already. I didn't know that that's what I was telling the teacher. You know, she just told me to read a book and, you know, go try to read. And I read it and I brought it back and asked for another one. And she's like, you're supposed to try to, you know, so I read her the book. She's like, oh, you got it at home. I'm like, no, I read the book. No, sweetie, you just know the words. My mom had to go in and tell her that, no, actually, I did know how to read. And then my mom got in trouble for teaching me how to read before I went to school. And my mom pretty much told the teacher, tough luck, the kid was ready, and she reads a lot. So, yeah, too bad. So, I've been reading forever. But I think if any one series, I'm just going to stick with the word series, because that'll be a little easier. Because I think the first series that I actually read myself. Yeah, the first series I read myself, not that was read to me. I think that would have been like Little House on the Prairie or something. I think the teachers read that at school, but that I read myself, that's the first series, I would say was probably Nancy Drew. And that might be why I love mystery so much, because I gluff and binge and do all the things on the mysteryness. I'm just saying. But yeah, it's a thing. So, yeah, we're going to go with Nancy Drew, but I read a lot as a kid. I read way more then even than I do now. Seriously, I am not kidding you. We would, the old brown grocery store bags, the big ones, not the little halvesies that they kind of have today, but the big full ones. I used to bring home 2 of those a week in the summer, and I would just read them and take them back and get another couple. There were no limits back in the day. You could just take them all home. So I would literally clean out the shelves. It didn't matter if I had read them before or not. I read them again. I read garbage. I've had a lot of garbage. And I read a lot of good books. And I wish I had read more of the good and less of the garbage, but I just, literally filled the bag with as many books as I could. That was what the goal was, to have as many things as I could, because I would go through 5 or 6 books a day. Easy. So yeah, that would be it. I like to read. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? Oh, I like this one. I like this one a lot. Look, I'm done with one. Or one side. There's so many. And I suspect that this is supposed to be about how to do a BookTube channel. That's not what I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask, what book do you wish you could love and don't? And if you can't nail a particular book, I'll settle for an author. But I'd love to know what book you wish you could love and don't. For me, I'm gonna say book. I'll do both. I'll just set the stage. I'll do both. Book. Any of the Lord of the Rings / Hobbit. I've tried so hard, and I'm not going to give up. I will find a way to learn to like those books. But if there's one thing that I don't enjoy in books, is heaping gobs of description, which is pretty much what Tolkien means. That's what that name means. It means great heaping gobs of description. Nobody knows it, but it really is. So yeah, no, it's not my thing. It's just not my thing. So, but someday I will like him. I'm willing to put the work in because I can see the genius in there. I just don't appreciate the reading. But I'm going to try audio next. I figure maybe audio's the way to go for that. I'm going to try it. Why not? Authors, I'm going to ensure that nobody ever watches this channel again when I say this, because I'm almost alone in this. There's a few others. And it's not just the books. It's the writing too. And everybody loves her writing. Everybody thinks she's amazing. And I can tell that she is a great writer. Okay? I'm just going to say this before I give you a name or any book. She is a great writer. I can see it. She does what she tries to do in her writing, and people love it. But I do not enjoy Francine Rivers. I've tried so many of her books, and I've never enjoyed one. I've slogged through a few. I've DNF'd most. It's just not me. And that's okay. She probably would hate my writing, and I'm okay with that too, because everybody isn't for everybody. It's not even the content. I have issues with some content. She's much more sensual than I'm comfortable with, but that's not what I don't like the most. The most is just the writing. I don't know. I can't define why I don't enjoy it. I can see that it's good, and yet I don't enjoy it. So there you go. I mean, whatever. So now that I have turned this over, I can put this aside. Number 7, what challenge or hurdle do you have to starting your channel? Well, time is always going to be a thing. That's just a thing. But that's why I'm doing this in advance, so that I have a bunch of them to put up, and I will just do my thing. And getting this stuff out of my head will make the rest of things easier. So I'm going to go for it. And I don't know how much effort I will put into making a pretty channel. I like pretty. And so it's where I want to go. But I don't know that I'll do it. I probably won't. I'm just being honest. So we'll see. But that'll be the biggest hurdle, is time. Yeah, time. We're going to go with time. When did you start reading? I've already answered it. I was 4. I'm going to say 4 because she taught me it just before 4 or just after. But, I wasn't really reading until 4. So I'm going with that. Where do you like to read? Well, here in the Shedifice. I will do a pan to show you later. This is my favorite place. There's a chair right there that I love to sit in, put my feet up. Dogs are all here doing their thing. And I have stacks and books and yeah. So I like to read here most, but I will read anywhere, and I do mean anywhere. I keep books on Kindle that are going. I keep books on audio that are going. I keep books in the house by my chair. I keep them out here. I keep them in my bedroom. I have a book going literally everywhere. And yeah. This is my favorite place. At 9 o'clock approximately at night, I come out here, I put my feet up, I got my drink, usually have a couple pieces of fruit. And when it's cold, I have tea. And I snuggle in and I read 5 chapters of a book, and then I put it down. I pick up the next book. I'm usually reading 2 or 3 at a time, and I read them like that so that I'm still eager to go on to the next one. And if you've got a little bit of a slog going on in a story, a lot of times just setting it down and picking it up the next day kills the slog. And so I do that now, and I love it. Sometimes I can't put it down. I just can't. And then I finish the book, and I was like, oh well. You guys will get, you get love tomorrow night. So this is where I like to read the most. And then number 10 is, what kinds of books do you like to read? I think it would be easier to say what I don't like. I used to say I didn't like biblical fiction. I actually am learning to like it again. So I think biblical fiction has come a long way, and kind of like Christian fiction as a whole has come a long way. The subgenre of biblical fiction has really exploded and done some amazing things, so there's that. But I would have said that at one time. I don't like romance that is really strong. I don't like anything spicy. I don't even like to read kisses. Okay, Pepper Basham still speaks to me. She's such a sweetheart, but no, don't even like kisses. Cut them suckers out. No, I do. I flip past them because reasons. But you know, other than that, and anything gory, I don't do gore. I don't mind suspense. I don't like being absolutely terrified as long as there's not blood dripping from the terror. You know, it's just my thing. It's just my thing. But I do love all books. Christian fiction is my number 1. Mysteries is my number 2. But they're really neck and neck. It would be a photo finish. And so, but unfortunately, Christian fiction mysteries aren't the top of my list yet, but I see improvements there too. There's some authors that definitely are, but not all Christian fiction mysteries rank right up there for me. I'm just throwing that out there. But yeah, I love to read pretty much anything, and I like variety. I like it in food, in clothing, in reading, in everything. I'm not a one and done, you know. It's not just Victorian fiction, or it's not just procedural detective mystery. It's not just, I like it all. So there's that. What does your book collection look like? Well, I will do a small pan of my bookshelves. It will be a fast, and I won't make it last a long time because I'm actually going to do a bookshelf tour. But I will do, and I will add it in here. But for the most part, it's just a lot of books. It's not always organized. Sometimes I just have them organized by what I like the look of or what I think I might want to read next. Other times it's in genres. You'll see that. And yeah, I'll show it. But that's about it. So that was the tag. I will be back with other things, TBRs, and I'm gonna talk about some of my favorite books in different genres and all the fun stuffness. But I hope you'll come along for the ride. And if you don't, at least I get to talk and get it out of my head, because talking to myself is something I've pretty much done all my life. So yeah, I hope you'll come along. But if you don't, I still get to talk to myself, so that's good. So I will see you